Good evening, everybody, and welcome to the January 16, 2025 meeting of the Oregon City Arts Commission. It is 7:03. If someone could hit the gavel. We are officially called to order. Thank you very much, and thanks everybody for being here. I'm Ann Griffin, and it's my pleasure to be the staff liaison for the Oregon City Arts Commission. We have some new commissioners that we want to welcome this evening as well. I'll do the roll call, and then we'll make our official welcoming remarks. Amanda Dexter. Here. And if for our new folks, if you are here, you say here. Joyce Lemaster. Here. Daria Loy. Here. Emma Lugo. Here. Josh Planton.
Here.
Miriam Ravenwise. Here. Rebecca Sierra. Here. And Amy Wilson. Here. Wonderful. Choir has an excused absence for this evening. I also want to let folks know that Mayor McGriff, she's the liaison to the Arts Commission for the City Commission. She is planning to come tonight. She's in another meeting, so she'll probably show up about halfway through. She will be joining us. Alrighty. And I'm going to go ahead and facilitate tonight's meeting. We're going to have elections tonight, and then we'll move forward. Our elected chair will facilitate next month's meeting. Again, I want to welcome our three new arts commissioners, Amy, Miriam, and Joyce. We're really happy that you're here. I was telling Miriam before the meeting got started that I'm going to be providing some orientation materials for you, some additional information about the Arts Commission's budget, about our bylaws, some of the scuttlebutt of the last couple of years. And so that would be my pleasure so I'll follow up with you individually and give you those materials. Alrighty. So let's take a look at the agenda for tonight. If people want to add anything, or if they have any questions about tonight's agenda.
Good to me.
All right. If it looks good, does someone want to make a motion to approve the agenda?
I move to approve the agenda.
A second.
And could we have a vote? Everyone who thinks, say aye.
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 Okay, it looks unanimous. Terrific. Thank you. First item on our agenda is the approval of the minutes. We've got December minutes, and then we had some corrections to November's minutes, so we haven't actually approved the November minutes. So if folks want to take a look at that, we can either approve them together or approve them separately, depending on if people have questions or comments. Do not necessarily have to have been at a meeting to approve the minutes. Have any questions? Would you like another minute?
There's a typo.
Uh-oh, where's the typo?
Page 4, first paragraph,
Oh, the December minutes,
in the
right.
December minutes, yeah.
Page 4 of the December, uh-oh.
It says ATS Commission.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
So if there are typos, that's something to take into consideration.
We can correct the typos. We don't need to look at the minutes again. I can fix the typos if you've brought them to my attention. Everybody here knows that they can, so, we will.
We can approve them with
With
the corrections that we
with typos
identified.
corrected, correct, yes.
Say that one more time.
We can approve them with any corrections that we note. So if there was like a typo, we can say, I approve with the, correction noted on the typo on page 4.
Okay.
And then they could still go through tonight.
Okay.
Thank you for catching that.
There's one other typo.
There's a,
Oh, no, really, where?
On page 3 of November. At the top, it just says, Daria asked, is there are priorities that we want to do? So is it supposed to be if?
If. Yeah. Good catch.
Did I print out the wrong one? Because that's what it said. Printed out the wrong one. I'm sorry, could you repeat where you saw that from the November minutes?
Me?
Yes, please.
Oh, sure. It's on page 3. At the top of the page where it says Daria asked, is there are priorities? When it's supposed to be
It
if.
should be if, yep,
Yeah.
okay. Thank you.
Thank you.
Anything else? If there's no further questions or clarifications to the minutes, does someone want to make a motion to approve? To approve the minutes as corrected?
I'll make a motion to approve the December 19th and November 21st minutes as corrected.
I seconded. For both.
Thank you. And if we could have a vote for their approval,
Aye.
Aye.
okay, thank you both, thank you all, a unanimous approval. Terrific, thank you for your attention to that, I appreciate you finding those. Okay. Moving on to public comment, typically I let folks know if we've received any public comment, which we have not received yet for today, so I don't have any to pass along. Now getting into the fun stuff, our discussion items for tonight. The very first thing we would like to take care of is our election of officers for 2025. I've had the opportunity to talk to some of you, but not all of you regarding this. Typically, we have a chair and a vice chair for our commission. Emma's had the pleasure of being our chair in the past. I think that's right. And did you help out with that? No, or you were vice chair?
I haven't been chair of so many organizations. I can't
Okay.
remember.
I thought you had played a role like
I
that.
think I was like for the first 2 months or
I think so too, like an interim.
Yeah.
Yeah, when the commission was first getting started. Yeah. So to let people know, this is a pretty flat organization. We're not too hierarchical. We talk about things and meet, emails and share information. But the chair is someone that I talk to regularly and put the agenda together, sometimes with the vice chair at the same time. We're meeting, discussing the agenda and getting the agenda out, or if people have questions or hearing things in the community and they want to ask me. So I'm in regular communication with both the chair and the vice chair. The chair facilitates the meeting, and the vice chair will do so if the chair is not available that particular evening. So in a nutshell, those are the roles, and it's a good opportunity to help direct and identify priorities for the group, because there's always so much that this group does. Are there any questions about responsibilities for either of those two? All right, well, you'll notice in your packet, I did put together just a one-pager that lists the opportunities to discuss the chair and vice chair role. And so if people feel like, typically, the vice chair will assume the chair responsibility the following year. Unfortunately, choir's not going to have the capacity to do that this year. So it's kind of wide open. And if they wanted to ask if there's someone that is interested in taking on the chair responsibility.
Can we nominate people?
You can also you can nominate people if you like. Yes, Emma.
I'd like to nominate Josh and Daria.
I'd like to nominate Josh and Rebecca.
All right. Now we're okay. Yeah. So one is Josh as chair and Rebecca as vice chair, and then one is Josh as chair and Daria as vice chair.
No, my nomination was just for
As a
either of
team.
them, as either one.
Yeah,
Okay.
same for me, yeah.
Okay.
I'm going to throw a monkey wrench in this. I'm going to recommend Amanda wherever she fits in.
Well, I was also going to nominate Josh. So, us three for Josh. Should he choose to accept?
Yeah, I mean, if people are nominating me, I would be happy to accept that responsibility on behalf of the.
Perfect.
And make someone's day, evidently.
All right. I was thinking that we would officially do it by the votes that you see in front of you. If you want to write down, and then we can. I'd like to tally. So I think
So you want us to fill all the fields, or?
well, at least one candidate
okay.
for each position. I think we've heard a couple for Mr. Josh. We've also heard Rebecca's name, Amanda's name, and Daria's name. Thank you. Do you want to say anything? Or so the three that I just mentioned, Miss Daria, Rebecca, or Amanda, would any of you like to say something about taking on a vice chair role?
I'm last year, because I was really interested in the vice chair position, but I was new, so I needed to get some experience under my belt. And I don't feel I feel like Josh is perfect for the chair this year, because he's been here, he knows the ins and outs of the things that the commission's been working on. But I would be very interested in being vice chair.
And personally, I would like to see Josh and Rebecca on the team, so I'm totally happy. I mean, I do appreciate it. That's very sweet of you. But I think it would be a great team.
And when I spoke to Anne, I said, I feel like I'm capable of being in that role, but if somebody else really wants to do it, then I would be happy to not do it. So
Doesn't sound like we need to vote.
It's pretty clear. I think it does sound like perhaps we don't need to vote. Okay, well then, what I'm hearing is a proposal that Josh serve as chair for 2025 and that Rebecca serves as vice chair for 2025. Would someone care to?
With the caveat that we just learned that we'll sit through
That's right.
January of next year so that
That's right, through
we have
January.
someone chair the
That's right.
January meeting.
January of 2026.
Yes.
And you know, I want to make sure that our three new commissioners like really don't feel left out, because like it's sort of like 6 of us are sort of deciding for all 9 of us. And I just, you know, I want to make sure, like, number one, that they have an opportunity if they do want to run for the position, that they have a chance to speak for themselves. And then also just to reassure them that, I mean, I think that our choices are based on having worked together as a commission for a few years and kind of see.
Don't have any experience. I mean, I don't even know where to sit. How am I going to share something?
She didn't get a screen.
I didn't even get a computer, so clearly the decision has been made.
I do also want to let you know that like the current seating arrangement is not like fixed in stone.
Yeah.
Okay. I won't get too comfortable then. I appreciate that. Thank you.
Well, for me, I'm new, but from what I've seen and what I've heard, I'm fine with these choices.
Terrific. I do appreciate you, Emma, giving consideration to everyone around the table. Thank you.
Hey, we've got new chair and vice chair.
Well, we need to make a motion and a vote. We need to make a motion, have the motion be approved, and then we need a vote.
Not right now.
Yeah. Right.
I make a motion to approve the decision to have Josh and Rebecca being chair and vice chair.
Second.
Okay, can we have a vote, please? Everyone in favor say aye.
Aye.
Terrific.
Great.
Wonderful. Congratulations and thank you.
Now it's
Who seconded that? I'm sorry.
Emma.
Thank you. Great. Terrific. Thank you, everybody. Okay, next in our packet, next for discussion is the qualified vendor application. This was something when we first started talking about our public art renovation grant program. We discussed having artists supply directly, or did we want to, what was the best way for us to support property owners who didn't necessarily have a relationship with an existing artist? So we discussed releasing, I was calling it an RFQ for artists, and I said, no, really, it's just a call for artists. It's really a request for qualified vendors. So what you see, what I have in front of you is a draft qualified vendor application for artists who would be interested in staffing or being selected to support the public renovation grant program. Now,
And this was mainly to help facilitate ease of information to property owners so they could look at essentially a catalog of qualified individuals to do restoration of, say, murals on their private held buildings. So I think it was more of a way to not let us impede that process, but give them resources to utilize.
yeah. That have been vetted and
Yeah, vetted.
yeah.
right.
Okay.
Right. And yeah, we're for our new commissioners, we're really starting off the year with a bang by introducing we've been talking about it for the last couple of months. It's going to hit the streets this month, January of 2025, is our public art renovation grant program that will be available primarily for private property owners that have murals on their building that need restoration needs. I don't know if you want to give it just a little bit of background information, Josh, for our new commissioner, since you helped secure some of that funding.
Yeah, so we received 2 pieces of funding. One was from the budget committee itself for this biennium, which runs through June of this year. The additional funds was from the enhancement grant committee, and the idea was trying to look at our inventory of public art in Oregon City and see which ones needed the most help in restoring. There's, of course, publicly held pieces like the statue that we put in across the street most recently, and Anne can probably share with all of you the inventory list that we have. It was actually more of a, what is the word I'm looking for? Assessment and audit of that. And so we have a full audit now of all the public art in Oregon City. And we are working with Public Works on part of those to clean up, because some of them it's just, a good scrub and they're good. Others, it's going to take a little more work. The ones that are most interesting are the public murals. So public murals can be considered public murals, but they're on private property. So the city going in and renovating those directly would be essentially the city putting money towards a private property. So we have to facilitate some other means of helping them cover those costs to get those things renovated, because we want to keep those murals visible to the public. We've found that there's been a few murals in the last few years that have gone away because people go to renovate and they're not under any type of easement or agreement with the city at this point, so they can just paint right over them, and it's a lot easier for a private owner to do that than to try and restore a public piece of art. So this grant is supposed to help with that. Some of these funds, we have about $28,000 dedicated to this grant program, and we figure most murals would cost in the ballpark of about $10,000 to restore.
Really?
Yeah. A lot of them, it's not just like a fade of the paint, it's actually the wall, so they have to get the wall fixed, and then they have to go in and do the touch-ups to the art itself. So it can be quite expensive. So, and also the artist doing it, it's a very detailed job and a lot of hard work, so we want to make sure that they are getting compensated, reasonably for that. So.
And also there is, in many cases, you need to have special equipment if they are high up, and it is very expensive to rent, The other thing is that it's, that's why we have like this call for the vendors, because we had like a lot of discussion about, the issue that may arise if we ask these, owners of buildings to apply. But, apply for funding sometimes is a lot of work. It's way more work than just painting over a building, right? And so the reason of doing this extra legwork for them to have an inventory of vendors is really to enable them to have an easier process, so that, they can apply quickly. They don't have to do the legwork or finding a list of vetted artists that can do the renovation.
So we're looking at not even 3, if it's $10,000 per.
That's right.
Yeah.
For this biennium, we can always, discuss further about asking for additional funds. If the program's successful, it gives us better chances of maybe getting those funds. But that right now about approximately 3.
Yeah. Yeah.
So, not to say that some private owners might say, I'm willing to give 5 if you can give me 5, and then I can, we can cost share that. Others, they don't maybe have that same capability. So it all depends on the property owners and what they're willing to help in facilitating that.
So are we approaching them to say, hey, you want to kick in some, or?
Yes. The art assessment that we have identified 4 murals in particular. And that included the mural that was on the Elks building that's down on 99, and as 3 additional ones. I won't. The Hop family photo mural, which is on the base of Singer Hill, right across from Dutch Brothers at the corner of that's 10th and Main. That one, and then
Across the street.
and right across the street. That's right. So those are all been identified as murals that are need help renovation.
And if you have a look at the Katie Road, the assessment, and you see that there are some murals that basically are beyond repair in some cases.
And so do we just let them Or do we spend money to hire somebody to do a new mural?
Yeah, we had that conversation, which would be nice, right? Yeah, we had that conversation. Yeah.
The funds, the 28,000 itself is for restoration purposes only. So we'd have to, it'd have to be somewhat more of a restoration versus a new mural.
Yeah.
But we were talking about, doing some enhancements to some of them at some point. But I think at this point, it's our more higher priority objective would be, let's restore the ones we can restore and keep them going longer.
Yeah.
So, because some of them, I mean, I can't remember the year, how long ago some of them were created, but some of them have been around for a while.
That long time.
So have we approached them yet, or?
We have not. We've had some approach us,
Right.
asking questions about whose responsibility and all that. So the plan would be to get this qualified vendor application out, and then once we have some artists in our pocket, going and starting to approach them about, we have these funds, it's an option for you to consider and see if they want to jump on board. But we wanted to kind of get everything kind of laid out before we approach them. Otherwise, I feel like we'll kind of end up doing cycles with them versus we want to keep it a simple process of, here's all the information you need, here's how to apply, and if they do take that up, it's a simpler process for everyone. One thing you will find, I have found, I don't know anyone else, us meeting once a month means we have to try and do as many actions as possible from meeting to meeting, and so we kind of have to try and save ourselves the time of, because if you're meeting once a month, you're going to be trying to kind of spend part of that meeting catching back up from what's happened between, so making it as simple as possible is helpful.
As for this application, I thought it looked pretty good. I didn't think that there was anything that we needed to add or subtract from it.
I think there's a few things missing.
Yeah, let's add words. This is also an application that will be available electronically, so people will primarily be applying online. And while Rebecca's talking, I'm going to call up the version that we can see it online.
Oh, okay. I remember the big spreadsheet. That's a checklist. And so I was just running, Anna and I were quickly running it against, and there's just like three, you're right, Amanda, it's almost done, I feel, but there's like three things that I think are missing. One is we should talk about how long are they going to be a qualified vendor? Is this in perpetuity, or is it for a year? Is it for 6 years? Like, we should talk about that and find out. And then another one is on the second page at the bottom where it says to describe your experience, and it says you may attach a resume. I really feel strongly if they're going to be doing this type of work, they should attach a resume. And then number 3, in project examples, same thing. They should attach some examples, even if it's like a joint project that they did with someone else. The more information we get, the easier it is for us to really vet them and make sure that they can do the job well and make it easier for those business owners. And then the last one is the deadline for submissions on the last page. On all of our submissions, the date's great. We always need to include a time. And that way people know, oh yeah, I got to get this in by 5 or by 11:59.
Yes, we had that problem in the past.
So we should make sure there's a time on there. And then I see the application link and I see a contact for you, Anne. Thank you. I think that's awesome. But those were the things that kind of stood out to me.
I have, sorry, go ahead.
I wonder, so when these applications come in, then we will review them and approve?
Yeah, who's reviewing?
What is the approval process once
Seems
we
like we would
receive the
review them as a
application?
whole.
Yeah, we would do it?
Yeah, I think so.
Or maybe a sub-team that is created to make it faster, or should all of
I
us?
think we have to choose that as a committee,
Yeah.
don't we?
So then I think if we did want to say, like Rebecca's suggestion, that we're saying that we want a resume or artist statement and and we do want photographs, then we would need to agree that we would not consider folks that didn't submit those things.
Yeah, agree.
Can we consider people that, I mean, this is one of those areas where, like, I'm a little worried about conflict of interest. Is this one of
little
these
worried about what? I'm sorry?
Conflict of
Conflict.
interest. Like, is this one of these things where we're gonna have a pool of artists that are people that we know personally that we're gonna, consider to do the work?
Yeah.
Which, maybe we can do that. I don't know. I'd just like to get the approval of James on that issue.
I think somewhere, didn't we have a conversation about redacting people's names and things like that?
Make it
so that-
anonymous. Yeah.
Right, make it as anonymous as possible. And I realize that's hard when we're visually looking at art because some of us will know the artist
Yeah,
that way.
yeah.
But maybe it would help at least make it as neutral as possible when we're making the decision to initially take, like, Anne could, or one of us, and then we don't, aren't part of it, but remove their names and their website, and then that way we can just kind of be as objective as possible when we look at the resume and the work. What do you think about that?
Yeah, I mean, I think it's inevitable. We're probably gonna hire people that we know.
I mean, on one side, I really appreciate them because I think we want to be impartial and fair, right, all the time for everything, really, all decisions. On the other hand, in this case, to some degree, knowing something about the artworks of the artist and the output might actually be helpful to know if it's good quality, like you actually know the artwork of that specific artist, there is good quality. Maybe you don't know them very well, but you know enough about their kind of conduct and work to know that is high quality, high caliber, if people speak very highly of them. So there is some level of validity in actually having some prior art information because it might enable us to assess that, but at the same time, I think we want to stay away from situations where, family members versus like a really, best friends get in because
we
whatever,
just can't show favoritism.
No.
So, I mean, we can judge people on
agree.
their merits and hire them.
Exactly.
We just can't hire somebody because.
Yes.
Well, we're not hiring
agree.
them. That's one of the thing here is we're not hiring them for these. We are just simply saying, yes, you have met what we consider a minimum burden to be presented as someone qualified to do projects that people might be submitting grants for.
Yeah.
So we do have that matrix, remember that you and Choir used when you went to the studios? Something like that would
something
also
like that
help
would
us
help.
be objective.
Be helpful.
Be like, oh, okay, they met 5 out of the 8 or whatever.
Yeah, that's true. Yeah, we can use that. Reuse that.
To your point, I almost would say if you have artists that qualify for these, we should be getting that out to them and saying, submit. So, I get your point about we don't want to have it look as though we are promoting ones over others. We should review all of them equally, but if they're qualified, by all means, we're not selecting them for any particular project to receive funding from the city or us. We're just simply saying, this is a good artist, building owners or whoever, look at them when you are considering who you want to apply. They don't necessarily need to pull from this either. If they came back and said, I have another artist that I want to use, we wouldn't necessarily limit that either.
Wouldn't we want to vet them, vet that artist to make sure?
We would vet them through the grant,
Oh, right.
for the enhancement stuff. Yeah.
Okay, right. Rebecca asked a really good question. So this qualified vendor idea, again, specifically came about because of the public art renovation program. We're saying, well, do we want to, I think that it would open up and it would close this spring, and it would basically be for artists that wanted to be partnered with a property owner or partnered with a public renovation program, and specifically going forward with that. The questions come up, do we want to broaden it? Do we want to put out this vendor list so that if people wanted to submit their qualifications to us for a future art project? So I don't know if you want to say a little bit more about that. I think it's a good question. It's a good question.
You mean the RFQ?
Well, I mean, this
Or are you talking?
this list for qualified vendors.
Right.
Do we want to expand it beyond just this particular phase of time where we're having the public art renovation program? Do we want to keep it open? Because you asked a very good question. What's the timeline when we're going to be
Oh, I see what you're saying.
accepting people's qualifications?
Yeah, because we have had a conversation in the past about, we did the RFP process with Jenny, and then it came up somewhere in there, like, what if we had an RFQ where we had pre-qualified artists, so as public art projects come up, we can, and let's say there's somebody that we know that's already been pre-qualified that is perfect for this thing, and then they can get to work on it. So there's that, but I kind of feel like that's separate from this.
Different skill sets.
Yeah.
Don't we need to have an open process for any?
I don't know, I'm just reiterating the question, or I'm repeating the
I mean,
question.
if it's public funding, doesn't there need to be an open process that, just like when we're giving away grants?
You mean in terms of like selecting, we wouldn't,
Yeah.
us wouldn't be able just to select someone from the list, say we want them to do this project. It'd have to be open.
Yep.
Yeah.
Yeah. No, I agree with you on that. But I don't disagree that if we said, fill this out and have this ongoing and say it lasts, I'm going to throw out 5 years because I don't want it to be a burden to the artists. But us, as an arts commission, providing a list of qualified artists in different categories. Maybe right now we're talking more murals, but maybe we do sculptures and stuff down the road, focus on those and other art. Having that available to business owners and community members within Oregon City is not a bad idea. And having something, we've kind of signed off on that they can look at, because say a new building owner goes in somewhere in Oregon City, they say, I want to do a mural inside my, well, it wouldn't ever be a public piece because it's inside, doesn't qualify, but we can still provide them names of artists, potential artists to go look at. Because right now, if you were looking online, you have a number of things, but we can really focus on local talent, more focus on Oregon City, but maybe broader, general geographic area. But I think it's a good thing to have as a resource for people.
I think that's a good idea because we've had so many discussions about how do we support artists within our community. So that's, kind of a super easy way to do it. I like it.
I have a couple of, there are a couple of, in the document, there are a couple of typos on the bottom of page 2. I think we probably want to say date of the projects, being that we are asking to more than 2, artworks. And then also I think we want to say feel free to attach or upload, not attached. But that aside, I kind of wanted to maybe discuss a possible amendment to question 4, given that this is documentation that we're asking them to submit so that we can make an assessment on whether there are qualified vendors. I think perhaps we might want to expand the nature of question 4 to include not only if there is a specific current project in Oregon City that you fancy, you like, but maybe ask them about, out of the artworks that we know that are in need for restoration, maybe we can ask them, is there one that you feel more interested in, and do you have ideas of, from a restoration perspective, how you would tackle the challenge? Because I think we want to understand their acumen in restoring things versus whether they like something or not. I think this is a crucial question for us to make an assessment. And then the other one that I wanted to perhaps have a conversation about is, I think it would be very valuable to broaden a little bit outside of Oregon City the scope of this vendor list, because there are some pretty amazing local muralists in Portland and neighborhood. And I don't see a reason to keep it localized to Oregon City, first because you don't have a big pool, and second because the quality might not be the same that you would achieve if you actually expanded it beyond the walls of Oregon City. So personally, I would feel for us to have good quality restoration and potentially a list of great muralists, for us to, as a resource, it would be nice to have something that is not just Oregon City centric.
I have two questions. One is backing up for a second. When you all were talking, I remember why the RFQ came up, because when Jenny was selected, there were 2 or 3 other artists that were finalists that everybody really liked. And that was kind of what I was thinking, was like those types that have made it all the way through, but they didn't get selected, maybe they are on sort of an RFQ list.
Yes.
That we could provide to, business owners or whatever, if they wanted a sculpture or something. And then my other question is, Daria, if we expand that number 4, are we going to show them a list of the current pieces that are needing help? We are.
I see why not.
Okay.
Yeah.
And so how will they see that? Like, I didn't.
I think in the guidelines, it says that they are encouraged to read the assessment report.
Yeah.
And it's online, I think it's been posted, at least in one of our meetings, so.
It should be, yes. It will be this coming week.
Yeah.
There's been a few, yeah.
So I'm understanding that we're kind of thinking about perhaps having 2 lists, or maybe it's 1 list with 2 subcategories, but one category is the muralist restorers, because it's a very specific skill set. And then there is a list that is artists that may be able to do restoration, but also they're actually amazing artists that we vet, and that can be made available as a list to those that want to include art in their facilities, buildings, etc. Is that what we're saying?
Yeah, but I think as I'm looking ahead on this agenda, I see that we have selected a date for a 2025 strategic planning retreat. So I wonder if that might be something we could talk more about then, so that we can continue the conversation just about this application for the muralists.
Yeah.
So I have a question too. Does the city put any kind of restrictions that this is city money, staying within either the city or the county? No?
I don't think so.
We wouldn't be giving grants to people with murals in West Lynn, no.
No, but the money wouldn't go from the city to the muralist. It will go from the city to the property owner, and then the property owner can choose.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah, thanks.
But in the past, for example, when we did the call for artists, when, the public restroom that's down by the elevator, we made out a call for artists, and we did give we had a list, a bunch of criteria by which to evaluate different people's application, and geography was one of them. It wasn't the only one. We did have finalists who were not from Clackamas County or from Oregon, but it was one of the things we did consider.
Thanks.
I have a couple comments, and I'll just go in order of the question. So question 1, I think we should also ask them preference if they want to be contacted by phone number or email.
Isn't that the best way to contact you?
Oh, okay, never mind. I wrote over it, so I didn't see that. The other thing, I think we should maybe ask them for, I was gonna say, types of art focus. So if you're more a sculptor or a muralist or whatever, I was thinking long-term, but we don't have to put that in this time. The other thing though is subject matter, like what is your subject matter of interest? I think I agree with you. Provide photos for number 3. They must provide, some examples. I think when we talk about a description, we should ask them for dates, materials used, equipment used, location, new or restoration of project.
Yeah.
Just to clarify, like, this is what a good description is going to be including.
Yeah.
I think, that was it. So I can repeat that, Anne, if you.
I'll get it in then.
Okay.
Thanks, Anne, for putting this together.
Yes, that's good.
How do we want to move forward with this? Because I know we're hoping to release this on the 27th. Is that
I wanted
the
to
plan?
release it soon. I mean, we have a deadline of needing to spend the money by the end of June, so we need to keep on rolling. But if people want to, do you feel like we won't be ready to release it next?
Well, I
soon?
just wonder if the committee is going to want to review the changes or if we are okay with just saying, yes, go ahead and release it with the changes that we've suggested.
Well, you guys tell me. So I'm taking notes of the suggested changes that you are making. I think there's just still one. We could review it again, or we could do a ballot by email.
Email, yeah, I think.
I think email would be best,
Yeah.
send it out, and,
Okay.
yeah, if there's anything else. We're gonna, as we go through this, like we do with everything I think we do, we find there's little tweaks that we want to make along the road, so this doesn't have to be 100% perfect, and shouldn't derail our timeline.
I do want to ask one follow-up question, though, in terms of, I think I heard you say that we're going to do this initial qualified vendor application will focus on the public renovation grant program, but that we will have a second call afterwards or at a different time
Yeah.
to solicit other, okay.
And I mean, in my mind, I'm not thinking it might even be another, well, it would be a notice that we are gonna have this program ongoing and people can submit it whenever. Because some people might just come across it at some point. We don't wanna say, you didn't submit it 2 months ago when it was due. We just leave it open, and if they wanna submit it, then they can get added to our list.
We could use something similar to what is done in iTech, where you have the vendor qualification, there's a process, and basically you can apply anytime throughout the year, and if there is a link where people can submit their material throughout the year, they can, right? And that's a way to constantly have new, possible entries.
I liked the suggestion of having the subcategories, so like, this will be our first category, and then we can add others as we go along.
Yeah.
Artists come across.
Perhaps maybe we could do Anne, do you feel comfortable making amendments based on the discussion on your own? Do you feel comfortable? Because maybe if we do this first and launch this, and then as Amanda was suggesting, when we have the retreat, we have a conversation about all the categories and the second phase.
Plan it.
Yeah.
I think it's a great idea, though.
I do too.
I think we could put performing artists in there, too.
Yeah, exactly. That's what
But isn't the key what Rebecca was bringing up about a time frame? So if it's a rolling application process,
So,
This one, no.
it'd be 2 phases, is what I'm guessing. The first one would be mural focused. We'd get it out and we'd ask people to try and submit before we get the enhancement grant stuff going. Then after that, we would open up and say, now we're gonna open it up and say, all artists of any performance or discipline, can submit. And we're gonna keep this going and keep a qualified list going.
for how long?
I think it just keep it up, and if an artist wants to apply for it, then great, we get that. One other thing we talked about doing was highlighting artists in our area. This would be a way to create a mode of getting information about them and then adding them to the newsletter to promote, the work that they've done in the area.
Yeah, that's a good idea.
And one way we could, and we can talk about this more at the strategic planning, but we could send out like a biennial kind of letter to them and have them kind of see if they still want to be on it and, figure out like, when do we want to do that? Do we want to do it every year, every other year, every 5 years? But, check in with them and have them update their information. They may want to submit more pictures of new projects or whatever. So we would need to figure out a little bit of programming that wouldn't be too administratively heavy, but I think it would be really cool and it would really elevate artists in the area.
Yep. My event planning senses are tingling. We could have a mixer.
Yeah, exactly, yeah.
So,
Let me just jump in and ask you guys a question. So you're trying to create a list of qualified vendors, so like a flexible services contract that you can go to. So you don't want to have it rolling. You have a period, the way the city does it is that there's a period that is open, everybody applies, if they meet your qualifications, they're on the vendor list, and then you can choose from them throughout your project. But if you do it rolling, it's not fair to the people who already applied. So I understand what you're trying to get at, but if you're trying to create a list of qualified vendors based on our funding, you're looking at rolling it every 2 years.
And our job as an arts commission isn't to promote individual artists. It's to promote a culture of the arts in Oregon City.
Well, I get it,
and
but
civic
what are you going to do with
engagement
what are you doing with the qualified vendor list?
So this
I mean,
this
I read the
qualified
material.
vendor list is for property owners who say want to find artists to do different projects for them. So
That's basically a flexible services contract.
yeah, but we're not
I know, you're
selecting
going to
people off of
contract with
that.
the artist, but you're creating the list.
We're creating the list, and then a property owner will be able to take that, say, I found someone I want to use. I'm asking you guys for money now, so we give them a grant, and then they pay the artist.
Right,
But
exactly.
we're not going to be pulling from that list
No,
specific
I didn't
artists.
say
We
that. I just said
reopen.
the way the city does it is we want to use contractors. We create a request for whatever their qualifications are. We create the list, and then we as the city can choose from them for various and sundry projects, and that's what you're trying to do, but you're not going to be contracting directly with them. You're
Well, we're not using them for our project.
No.
We might. but-
Listen, I didn't say that. I said you are creating a list for other people to use who are, these people, you have qualified them so that when they get, the applicant goes to the list, they know that they have been pre-screened by the city, so to speak, because you are the city.
Well, I think we're talking about two different things. One is absolutely what you're saying. That's the one for the mural restoration. But then we're just sort of spitballing a little bit about creating this kind of like a directory of local artists that could be made available.
Right, well, that's not a qualified vendors list.
That's something different.
That's a different project.
So we're talking about two different things.
Right.
So if someone said,
But
hey,
again,
we want to,
you don't have this on your agenda that you're going to create a directory.
no,
That's
we're going to
what I'm
talk about
saying.
that later.
Yeah.
That's
So-
later.
Yeah, we pinned
not
it
our
for
job,
the
though.
strategic planning.
Yeah, that's what
Right.
they want to discuss, so that's strategic planning.
We're not, that's not our job. I mean, there's organizations here in Oregon City
The Clackamas
that
County Arts Alliance
promote
does that.
arts. I mean, our job, we're representatives of the city.
If you're creating a list of artists, then you're looking at quote-unquote Oregon City artists because the Alliance already does something like this. They have you can go and look in their list and see who's out there and who's doing what project, but it's the whole county. So are you talking about limiting, because you are the Oregon City Arts Commission. So are you talking about limiting it to Oregon City artists, or are you talking about everybody, or somebody's from Portland or whoever?
I honestly think that we should postpone this conversation to the strategic planning because this is like this, not the vendors for the list for the actual mural. The other secondary project is something that just came up right now as a brainstorming
Yeah, I agree.
item.
Put it on your.
I think we need to
Put it in your
think
parking
through,
lot.
you know, with a little bit more thinking and the pros and cons, the why,
Yeah, I'm
and
not
the
trying to
how.
tell you
Yeah.
what to do. I'm just saying if you're
Yeah.
creating this process, keep that separate from this other thing
Yeah,
that you want to do. 'Cause
absolutely.
They are not the same thing.
Yeah. Yeah.
I would like to suggest that we agree that with the changes that we have suggested, that we'd like to see those via email, and then move on to talking about the grant application.
Yeah. I agree.
Yeah.
Thank you.
With respect for time.
Thank you. All right, terrific, thank you. The public art renovation grant guidelines is obviously connected with this call for qualified vendors. We've looked at the guidelines before, and we first started tracking in October, and we reviewed it in November. What you don't have, or didn't have before, was the application. So the guidelines have been tweaked again, as we discussed at our November meeting, but I do have the application here. So I wanted to show you the application, and then I wanted to just go over the timeline a little bit with you. When we were talking about the application, there was the question of, a couple questions came up. And one was, if I'm not a property owner, but I can put together an artist team, and I get the permission of the property owner, can I submit for this grant? So the answer is absolutely yes. So if there's an artist or even just someone who loves murals and says, boy, that mural needs help, and that person can put a team together, as long as the property owner says
Agrees.
yes.
Okay.
You have to have the consent and the permission of the property owner. And ideally, the property owner would also contribute some funds, but not necessarily. But they do need to agree. So that was asked at an earlier meeting, and the answer is absolutely. So, that can be it.
So,
Is there a qualifying action that they have to do to confirm they have approval from the property owner?
Just a signed letter.
Just a signed letter? Okay.
so here, yeah, written permission.
Yeah, and in fact, if you look at the application, there's the spot within the application for the artist to sign. So like if you're saying you're gonna do this, we still need to know, well, you have to have an artist that's on board. We have to find out who's the artist that's gonna do the work. And that artist's information needs to be included in the packet, and the property owner needs to agree. Other things that we require is that they need to put on that protective coating on the mural, so that's part of the city's guidelines. So both the artist and the property owner need to say, yep, read the Oregon City public mural guidelines, I agree with them, and so that information needs to be in the application too.
So,
How much does that cost? Do we know?
How much does what cost?
The coding?
I've heard a variety of different quotes. It can be quite expensive.
Okay.
yeah. So I have a little a comment about a point in the guidelines. Just because of my personal experience with this specific item. So page 2 at the bottom, item 5, project insurance. So I think that this is a huge sticky point for many people. So for instance, the scenario and that you were describing as, hey, I love murals and I would love to save this mural. I'm gonna find a project together and find all the artists and get a letter from the owner of the building. And now, however, I'm stuck with having to create this project insurance that is not an easy undertaking nor cheap, right? And so, you know, I wonder how that is going to create issues for folks. Because that's not something that you have, you know, commercial, general commercial insurance project is something that you have to pay for. And I mean, I guess you could build into the project expense, right? But it would certainly take out parts from that budget, right?
How much would it be for a general liability? I mean, for the
General liability
I have no idea.
Just for the time link that the mural is being put out.
I don't know how much it would be. I have no idea.
I mean, it can't be
I
more
think
than
it varies. I've seen
$200.
$200, $300.
Oh, so it's like in the hundreds?
You know, it's in the
Yeah,
hundreds.
it's
We have
Yes.
to do it for events, and yeah, I mean, I can get a general liability for $2 million nonprofit for $600 for a year.
But like non-profit. But what if you are not a non-profit? If he's
Well, it would be something they'd have to work out. Most likely the property owner has their own insurance, right? So they could work with them on getting some type of either, if it's, maybe it's already
bridge.
covered under their umbrella, or they can talk to them. But I don't think it's gonna be thousands upon thousands of
okay,
dollars.
okay.
It's in the hundreds, the times that I've
the hundreds.
because it's a short period of time.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay.
And it's just super common, like insurance companies
Yeah.
just know about this, so it's like,
Okay.
oh, okay.
As long as it's not an impediment for you
Right,
to
and
consider.
again, the grant funds can be used to help pay for that insurance.
If they can bake it in, right? Yeah.
The property owner may have an existing policy. The city really wants to be an additional insured.
Yeah.
That way, if someone is on a scaffolding and doing the work and they drop a paint can on somebody who's walking, whatever, you know, that other people who might be involved don't get hurt, and that the city's covered as an additional insured under that policy.
Okay. Okay. I just want to be sure that we
Yeah.
don't exclude people because of that.
Pretty typical.
Okay.
As Josh said, and the city won't allow for somebody to be working in the right of way, which is
Yeah,
the sidewalk,
yeah.
without having some kind of, they should have insurance because
Yeah.
you know.
Well, I mean, like, for instance, I had an experience specifically where I made an application and this clause was there, which is fine. However, then for me, owner of a gallery, I had to put it as, because the thing was going to be part of my space, and to have that liability attached to my specific business as a new business was an incredibly terrifying thing to have, right? So if you are a small business, the possibility of something that is attached to your business as liability is a kind of a scary thought. Of course, you hope that nothing happens, but if it does and you're liable, that is a big issue for someone that is a small fish, like just started,
Somebody's
right?
going to walk off the street and say, I love murals and I want to do a project.
Yeah. Yeah. So,
Yeah, no, but it's an
but if
important
it's
question.
attached to,
Yeah.
whatever the owner of the building that I established, all the murals that we want to restore are on established businesses, so I think it would not be a problem.
What else do I want people to know about this?
Oregon City doesn't really have abandoned buildings, does it?
The other thing that we are asking,
Boy, that would be a fun project.
Oh, gosh, yeah.
I don't know. It would be a big project.
Yeah.
There's already tigers,
There's some building that
as folks know too, so other things that people need to be aware of when they are working on murals specifically is the easement agreement that gets signed with the city,
Yes.
and then a final report. After they're done with their renovation program, they need to send us a final report.
For new commissions, easement is, a legal document that we have them sign when we do any kind of mural approvals as a commission, and they last for 5 years. And it's basically saying that that they're going to maintain that mural. The property will maintain that mural for that 5-year period. And if something happens to it, then that property owner is liable to repair it.
Can you point me to where it says they have to provide a final report? Is that in the guidelines?
It's on page 3 in the guidelines.
Okay, great.
Number 7.
Oh, good.
So is there any way that we can ensure that that happens? I mean,
Yeah.
because once they got all the funding, who cares, Just saying, some folks might not give you I wonder if there is a way to release one portion of the funds after that has been submitted, just as a little incentive to actually have a report submitted. Because I kind of think that quite often those final reports never happen. People just,
When it's done, it's done.
they took the money and they're gone. Is there any way?
That's something else we should talk about at the strategic planning meeting, is like the follow-up to the projects that we get involved in, so that we have a record of.
Because there's no way for us to have anything if we don't have a final report. There's no much really useful record, right? Denise, is there any precedent in the city in terms of when a final report is needed to ensure that there is compliance, basically, that they actually do submit?
There's always a deadline. There's always a deadline for when
But do people always submit
they
when?
have to if they want to get the money.
See, that's what I was saying. Like, if we release the
last payment
funding,
is contingent upon the
Yeah.
submittal of all of the other requirements, et cetera,
Yeah.
et cetera.
I think that's what we should do.
We always hold out some, whatever percentage.
exactly. Yeah, that's what I was.
It's a good
thinking.
point. I mean, it's a relatively small grant in the scheme of things, but it makes sense to do that. The community enhancement grant is something, for example, you have to submit your final report before you get your final payment. So we can revise it that way, I think. So if it's,
So is that a percentage that is retail, like 20%,
What do we hold
30%?
out for enhancement? Is it 25, that last 25%?
it's probably usually it's their last payment. So however we've arranged it, it could be the last quarter, last
Yeah.
25%.
So maybe we do the same.
He knows how to do it.
Yeah.
Is that language you can pull from that enhancement grant and just put it in here? Because I think that's something to let them know too, that they're not going to get all their funding up front. But it's going to be based on them completing that final report.
And then maybe we want to add to the very already growing agenda for the strategic meeting, we might want to add another point about discussing the type of things that we would expect to see in a final report versus saying final report. I think we should be structured so that we get all the value that we can get out of each project.
Enhancement grant has a series of questions that they have to answer
Yeah.
for the submittal of the final report.
Maybe we inspire ourselves from that kind of.
I would like to propose that it's like you get maybe 3 payments. You get the first $6,000, then you get, $4,000, then you get the last $2,000 after year, something like that.
Increments, yeah.
But everything has to be out by June.
All the money.
All the money has to be out, so, okay.
Yeah. So yeah, we would have to ensure that the project terminates with the final report submission, basically. Yep, true.
Okay, that's an excellent point.
Yep.
So when
All right.
they're looking at their budget, and they're gonna have to come up with some sort of insurance for a little period of time, and then this coding, like, wouldn't it be helpful if we were able to point them to how much they might expect for those, like have a range or something, and then that way they don't,
I mean, the qualified artists should be able to help get that information for them if they've done similar projects.
true.
So yeah,
Trying to think of like how we could, part of the goal of doing this is to make it easy on the business owners, right? And so if the business owners knew, okay, well, I'm gonna get $10,000, but 2,000 of it has to go to coding, then it helps them kind of figure out in their head a little bit. But if that's overkill on our part, then never mind, because you're right, the artists might also be like some contractors that they get a better deal because they have a relationship with the, the manufacturer of that item or whatever.
yeah.
Does anybody know a muralist here that they could ask?
We could, well, we have,
Us, yeah,
Why don't you ask what standard practice is, maybe?
we do.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I could include information here generally about what muralists, charge based on what we learned when the assessment report, and also just a range of
I think
the coding
Kathy
costs.
once gave me, I have a look in my emails, but once she gave me a short point thing, bullet with, this thing usually costs this much, this other thing usually Kathy Rowe.
oh, yeah.
Yeah, so I
she-
might have it from
she's
her.
done restoration
Yeah,
in Oregon City.
exactly, yeah.
So she probably.
And again, prices change over time, and so
Yes, we need to be updated. Yeah.
that may not be such a good idea.
And they're gonna say, well, you told me it cost.
Exactly.
Well, at least you could give us information on where to look, or what things do you need to plan for in your budget?
Yeah.
That might be helpful to have.
Yeah, that would be, okay.
Yeah, because the artist, like you said, might have some type of contact or have extras left over from a project, so that's for the property owner and the artist to figure out.
And in the template that's in there is a line for insurance, there's a line for coding, there's a line for.
Materials. Yep.
It does say protective costing.
I wanted
You guys aren't gonna believe me if I tell you I'm good at proofreading. You're not gonna believe me, but it's true. I really am. I wasn't.
Yeah, I have
We'll blame the holiday season.
It's all good.
It's all good.
too much yummy food. I have a question about the first page. Oh, sorry, go.
I'm sorry if I missed it. Is there a form or some structured document to give them for the final report?
No.
Should that be a thing? Yeah.
Yeah, that's what I was
Saying there's
suggesting.
a
Yeah.
question and a form you have to fill out for the enhancement grant.
Yeah.
This is what you need to submit.
Yeah.
Okay.
There's no template, but
There is
yeah.
already a template for enhancement.
For the questions, not the form.
We're gonna
There's no
use
form,
that
right?
in order
Yes.
to give them,
You have to submit information
specific
based
guidelines
on
so
that
that
last.
it's not a guessing game for
report
them.
document.
Exactly.
Yeah.
So that's helpful. I think that's a good suggestion. So put more information around like what needs to be in the final report. Your final report should include A, B, C,
Yeah.
and a picture.
I think we should just have a template. I mean, it's, yeah.
Yeah.
That is helpful for
Change the
everyone.
enhancement ones, don't reinvent the wheel.
So I have a question about page 1 of the application.
Yeah.
When it says, who are the members of your project team, blah, 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 and then it says, if you haven't yet identified an artist to do the work, economic development staff might assist you. Shouldn't it be the Arts Commission?
Well, it would be Anne's economic.
Oh, okay, okay.
And no, it shouldn't be the Arts Commission because you guys are gonna be
Yeah, it's
approving.
true.
And be advising.
Yeah, we can't.
Yeah, that'd be,
Yeah.
we both for a brand new mural and project, a mural renovation. That's something you guys are gonna learn about and check off and approve.
This would be the vendor list that we're talking about would come into fruition, right? If you haven't yet identified an artist to do the work, we can assist you.
Oh,
But
yes,
if we already had an
yes.
online vendor list, we could put a link
correct.
there.
Yeah,
Yeah,
we could say
that's what
economic
they-
development staff can provide you with
Right.
a list of qualified
Yeah.
vendors or
Yeah.
something, yeah.
Okay.
All right.
And you did a lot of work. This is, thank
Yeah,
you.
this is great.
All right. Thank you.
Yeah, aside from, coming up with some sort of format, and we'll use the economic grant, I think that this is a fine application.
Yeah. I think
And
so.
again, the idea is that it'll all be online, so people, if they want to fill out a hard copy, they can, but mostly people, so there'll be links on the Arts Commission section of the city's webpage that will have links to all of these materials.
Okay, that's great.
Are we gonna do the same thing as the other, qualified vendor, want to approve by email after the changes are made, or do we want to, is everyone comfortable approving it now?
Are there changes to be made?
Well, there was a few typos, and then the information on
typos in
the
the final
final report.
I guess that does need to be in the applications that,
Or at least in the guidelines, yeah.
applicants are aware that that's a requirement.
And the stipulation about final payment will be held
Added,
until, yeah.
yes. Okay.
So do you feel like there's enough that it would be better to
That sounds like we should.
view it via email and then
Yeah.
finalize?
I think that seems the safe bet.
Yeah.
When you do send your information to me, send it directly to me, because if we can't have an email conversation with everybody on it.
Yeah, that's a good point of order then.
That would be considered a meeting.
Any more than
Right,
two
so-
arts commissioners talking is considered a public meeting and needs to follow the rules, so you can still end up at a venue or an event somewhere and talk, but just not talk about arts commission
Yeah,
stuff.
only 2%.
You'll get to learn all these ins and outs in your orientation.
My email is
Arts
the
Commission.
Email is the same thing, it all comes to the meeting.
BCC.
But yes, I do think that will be fine. I will send that out
Yep.
to each person. Thank you. Okay.
Thanks, Sam.
Yes, that was a lot of work.
Yeah, thank you. Yeah.
I also want to remind folks that, so we're going to be reaching out to property owners. In some instances, we'll see, hopefully by March, we'll have everybody off and working and going. You will remember in the guidelines for the renovation grant that we will reach out to some public sector agencies so that we can make sure that we spend all the money. So there are some other projects that are identified in our public art assessment, like the bust of John McLaughlin that's out on 99, that's owned by ODOT. If it's April and May and we still haven't allocated all of these funds, then our next step will be to also talk to additional owners or other people responsible for maintaining some of the public art as them. So we wrote that so that we could make sure we did spend all the funds.
Yeah.
I don't really want to spend it on that particular statute.
Yeah, I agree.
Just want to remind folks of that.
And before we get to the vote, before we get to the strategic planning retreat, I just wanted to ask, at the last meeting, you mentioned something about an issue regarding the budget, but we didn't get to it at the last meeting. Could you address whatever that issue is, just so that we know it?
Yes, so the question we had was about the, our 23-25 budget, and if we had enough funds to offer another round of Arts Commission grants, which was something we had hoped to be able to do. And I've invited someone from the, either the finance team or James to come and officially address that. We will not have, we do not have sufficient funds to offer another round of grants this year. So that, I know that's the answer, but I also am arranging for someone to come and talk about that in more detail with you.
Okay.
Will it be in the next meeting or?
I hope so. Yes, it will.
Go ahead.
So, yeah.
And then, like, when you were saying, going back to the application, like, when we have to start approaching the owners of those buildings, when we say we, who is we? So is that like...
If there are volunteers on the Arts Commission who want to help me go knock on doors for property owners, that would be welcome.
Okay.
Yeah.
Because I kind of like, I mean, I would like to ensure that you and are not left on your own elements because you are so busy, you've got so many things on your plate, and
Appreciate that.
I want to ensure that you're not like, you know, we, one person we.
Something that you do during the day, or
Yeah, I mean,
She's leaving right after this meeting.
24/7.
well, I do know the first few property owners that I'm going to reach out to.
Okay.
Got them ready on speed dials.
I mean, you let us know if you need assistance with that.
No, I appreciate that, and also similarly, let me know if that's something you're interested in, and we may even go together to go have a conversation with the property owners. But and again, they were identified in the assessment report, so it's not a secret who we're looking at or talking to. But
Looked at the Dr. Forbes Barkley one this afternoon totally by, because I was right by there, and I thought, oh, this is in even worse shape than I thought, because I was looking at it like that close, and I said, wow, okay.
That's gone.
It's faded badly.
It's gone. Yeah.
yeah. And so if that is something you're interested in, let me know, and we can do that. All right. Thank you. Okay.
Strategic planning. It's gonna have to be 3 weeks long.
Our strategic meetings.
We're gonna have to sleep in 24/7.
I don't know who's chairing your meeting, because I was in my other meeting while I was waiting to come to here. So are you chairing?
no,
I've actually been facilitating.
Oh, you've been facilitating.
I've been facilitating the meeting because I let team off hook 1 month too soon.
Oh, there you go. But before you get to your strategic plan, there's like, if you don't mind, there's 3 things I wanted to bring up to you that is something I think I want you to be thinking about, or how you want to do this. Obviously, because of the short time frame in the meeting, so the 3 new people haven't been onboarded yet. So I'm assuming that you have read Chapter 2.26, which basically outlines what the responsibilities of the Arts Commission. I hope you did that before you interviewed. What the Arts Commission does, it's in our city code. So you have not done that? If you have not done that, you should do it.
And I've got a whole.
And she's got a packet for you, but at least if you read it before you do your onboarding, you'll have a little more. I just assume people are going to do their homework before they interview for a position, and we haven't had really good luck with that and the ones that I've been sitting on in the last, because I have to make the appointments. So the one thing I have to ask you is, because I didn't ask you because I wasn't able to be here, so I have to ask you the question because in the code, it says that at least 5 members must be residents of the city. So I know 3 of you live within the city limits, but if you live within the city limits, not that you have an Oregon City mailing address, but you live in the city limits, just raise your hand so I can make a note of it. Okay, so I've got Amanda, I had Amy, obviously I knew Amy did. Emma, I knew you did. Josh, I didn't know exactly where you live, but I'm just gonna write it down.
I'm McLaughlin. I'm in McLaughlin.
Yeah, you're in McLaughlin, and then Joyce. Yes. You're in the city.
Inquires in,
Inquires.
Inquire, yeah, I knew she was. So the other thing it says is that you have 2 citizens at large. So that means you do not have to live within the city limits of Oregon City. And I believe, Rebecca, you're one, and so obviously, is it Miriam?
Yes.
So you're the other one. So you have an Oregon City mailing address, but you're not within the city limits, correct?
I'm in unincorporated.
Right.
I'm in incorporated, I think, also.
Yeah, and so where are you?
I'm on Carroll's Road.
Okay, so you're in Clackamas County in the Cara CPO.
Yeah.
And I know because
Right,
we
yeah.
talked. And so where are you?
I actually live in Tualatin, but I'm,
Okay, so you're
Yeah.
you're outside the city limits, obviously.
Yes.
So we can do that. But you have a business you said is here in Oregon City.
Correct.
So let me just double check. So it said we can have 2 citizens at large. And then we have, quote unquote, it says 5 from the arts community, but that's the same number. So we're doing, overlaps. And I know who's in the artist community, so we're not having a problem with that.
Yeah.
So, let me check on that because you're unincorporated and you're unincorporated and you're not, you're outside, so I need to check on that.
okay.
So, 'cause-
Yeah, because I was looking at that.
yeah, because when I got the applications, the stuff gets blocked out as to where you live, so I don't get to see that unless I, specifically ask staff, okay, well, where does, because a couple of times I've had to call people and I said, look, I need this person's number to chat with them or something. Okay, all right, let me double check on that. So then the other thing is that I did make the appointments by email. I thought we were supposed to wait until February. We were supposed to get everybody all together, but I just did what the staff told me to do. So the other thing is that I don't believe that the Arts Commission in the last year has done a presentation to the City Commission about what it is that you guys have done over the past 2 years. So be thinking about that so that you can come. What I would not advise you doing is, which is what the gal from the End of the Oregon Trail Center did, and I shouldn't be, because I haven't talked to her yet. Anyway, we thought it was a presentation, and that's what it was. It ended up being an ask. We don't want to do that at a presentation. So I'm going to, it was a nice presentation until it was like, okay, you need to give us this, this, and this. And it was like, I could see the other commissioners kind of getting a little, I thought, oh no.
But I know we made a presentation to the city commission in May.
May
Yeah.
of this year?
This of 24.
okay.
Right, and would like to do that on an annual basis.
Yes, and it should be, that's what I was just going to say. Whenever it was the last one, just think of that as an annual, and you can pick whatever, time you want.
Right.
Ann will just get it on the agenda, and that's not a problem, because I think it's
Some point
in
May.
we want, and I want the City Commission to celebrate all the successes of, and it doesn't have to be, parks was like the other day was like this, last year was this huge laundry list of things. And I said, that's good, that's cool. We just want it, it's just a good idea. We get updates regularly from the Planning Commission. We get them from the Historic Review Board. We've had parks. We've had the Transportation Advisory Committee come in and tell us about their projects. And so maybe after you have your strategic planning session, you could say, here's some of the things that we are thinking about doing, we've talked about them. The other thing I wanted to let you know is that in early February, the City Commission is having their annual goal-setting session. And if you haven't seen the city's goals, they are on the website too, and I hate to say that because usually I like to give people paper, but you might want to look at those, and if you have any ideas about expanding any of the goals or adding a goal or something like that, just, let me know. I'm doing a session next week with the Chamber and the Downtown Association about just talking about what's coming up with that and what we've done so far, and kind of giving people just a snippet of, here's what we've done, here's the goal, and then, so it's like, let's just say we want to make sure everybody in town has a red balloon. So underneath the goal is how we plan to distribute the red balloons to everybody, and where are we on the timeline of, we've done this quadrant, we've done this quadrant, we've done this quadrant, we have 2 more quadrants to go, and then everybody will have a red balloon. So that's kind of how it breaks down, and the staff gives us basically almost monthly updates of where they are, and they have, for those of you that like charts, there's a Gantt chart or something like that. I'm not a chart person, but, it's like, okay, we're in November, we were over here, and now we're here, and we're, 50% done, or 20% done, or 100% done. And so it's a good way of tracking kind of what, we're doing and what we're trying to do. And sometimes there are specific projects within those goals that says, like, everybody gets a red balloon. Well, that's our goal. We want everybody to have one. So then we do it, and we can check that off the list. So it's stuff like that. This is, I think, my third one doing it. So next week I get interviewed by the consultant. I think we're using the same one we have last year, and it's like all day, one day, and then a half day the next day. And, it's very long. But it's been worth it, so it just kind of sets the parameters. But, what I'm trying to do is get some feel from other, outside of what the city commission is doing. Okay, what are your ideas? What do you think? I mean, I know for downtown, is the courthouse on this list? Well, it comes under economic development, but, where does that fall, within that? And how are we going to get to, the goal of making it economically viable, which is the goal. So just kind of keep that in mind.
And when do you need those goal ideas from us?
Our goal-setting session, I believe, is the first weekend in February.
I think it starts on the 7th.
Yeah, I believe it does too. Yeah, the 7th and the 8th. So you can just, email me, or if you see me wandering around somewhere, you just grab me and stop me, and I'll try to make sure I make notes. But, or call me, either one. It's easy. Just because, the more I personally feel better with the more ammunition I have with, this is what the community is saying to me, this is what I'm hearing from the community, and that way I can translate that back. Because it's not really my ideas, it's the community. I mean, there's some goals that we have I know we're going to carry over because it's a longer than a 2-year project, so it's going to be a 4-year project. So it's just stuff like that, that, I'm interested in, knowing what you guys are. And that's why I'm sitting in, I'm looking at your meeting notes, and I'm making notes to myself, okay, this is something that we'd like, and, something that we can hopefully achieve within the next 2 years, because so we're going to be doing what, 25, 27?
Okay.
Yeah.
So are you building on the previous 23 to 25?
Yeah, we've done that in the past. We've changed some stuff around under the, because the goals are very broad. I mean, if you're looking at them, just read one, just because they're very broad. They're aspirational, and then underneath it is all the detail. So you could just read one out loud because they're not all pulling it up. I have mine up on my.
Support diverse housing options.
Right, and so how do we get to support diverse housing options? And so underneath that goal will be, okay, we want to be able to work with developers to incentivize them to build affordable housing instead of market rate housing, and then how are we going to do that underneath that? And that's, we're kind of giving staff their marching orders. This is what we want you, this is what we want you to do.
Mm-hmm. So there's really only one that would apply to the arts, it looks like.
I believe so.
They're promoting tourism,
Right.
supporting economic development.
Right, and that's under that, but we can add other things, under that broad, because that's what they are. The goals are very broad. We have a mission statement, that kind of stuff, and then it's what I want is to get flesh out more of the details underneath the big broad goal. So that would just be immensely helpful.
That's great. That's a good opportunity and reminder to all of us to be looking at those goals and appreciate the opportunity to give
And
information.
the second thing is that I don't know, I didn't bring it with me. I should just bring my binder. We have the budget schedule. We have not, when I say we, it's Matt and myself, we have not interviewed people. We have some vacancies on the budget committee. But be thinking about if you're going to have some asks and how to, I think you can work with Ann to come in to the budget meetings and do your pitch. I mean, right now we've got, everybody's wanting something from soup to nuts. And I think what I get concerned about is, everybody wants everything, but nobody wants to pay for it. And I don't know if any of you participated in the community survey. I have yet to find, there was one online, but then they did one that they sent out to people. So there were 300 people. And I said to the consultant last year, I said, I don't even know somebody that knows somebody that knows somebody that did the survey that got it. You got one?
I did it.
Yeah.
I did it.
And so, those 300 people, that was very helpful, looking at what their responses were. And it's sort of a cross-section. And when I looked at the map last night, it's all over. It's very well distributed from this part of the city limits up to Park Place. And there was red dots all over it. So I was glad to see that there was a broad cross-section of community members. And I would say the one thing that was disappointing is that the two biggest projects that we have coming up that are going to scare me to death are replacement of the pool and replacement of parts of the end of the Oregon Trail Center, both huge, big ticket items. And we said, would you be willing to support a bond, a levy, a utility tax, or whatever? I mean, there was a whole list. And there was a very small majority that said yes, we would support something. There was a middle of the ground, we would support doing both. And then there was like 49% said no. And we're not going to be able to pay for it out of general fund money. I can tell you that. It's just not going to happen. And it's just a matter of what the ask is going to be. And I'm not scared because it's going to be a big number. I already know it's going to be a big number of what it's going to cost. What I'm nervous about is that, again, there's a perception, I want all the services and I want it for this amount of money, but it's costing this amount of money to do whatever it is that the public is, because one of the requests was, we want to have really good streets, but we also want you to limit development and congestion, so those two things are, they're kind of conflicting in a little way. And, and I'm not, dismissing anybody's comments because I like the survey helps me. When I first started reading it back in 2019, it helped me go into the goal setting session by saying, well, I'm looking at the community survey and generally, this is what people are saying. And so how are we going to make our case for this or that or the other thing? But I think, all in all, I was really happy because there's a high level of satisfaction that people really want to live here and they like living here. We all want the moon, and I'm gonna do my best to try to get the moon. But I'm one of 4 votes, so we'll see how that goes. What I worry about is we've got some people on the commission who are very pragmatic. Well, if we give them Y, then what are we not going to be doing over here? And I said, well, I want to try to get to here. I don't want it to be an either or. It's like, well, you can have this, but you can't have that.
That's zero sum.
Yes. And it doesn't always work.
No, just as an older statesman said one time, make the pie higher. Y'all don't remember that?
Make the what?
And then George W. Bush said, make the pie higher. I'm sorry. I'm an equal opportunity quoter.
So anyway, thank you for that. I just wanted to give you some heads up about some things that are coming up. It should be on, your radar. And, if you decide to voluntold one of your members to come to the budget committee to say, we need this.
When is that budget committee
The budget committee has not been formed yet. I haven't even done the interviews yet. It closes,
There's
I
some
think.
time still too.
It closes very soon, and there's like 6 people that have applied.
She's talking about the applicants to be.
No, but I mean, I meant the budget meeting, the
budget
one
is
that you
in
were
June, right?
suggesting.
No, that's when we have to have it done.
Yeah.
So May?
May.
No, we'll be meeting probably in March, April.
So
Like
we
I said, I
need to
didn't bring my binder
definitely have
because
it in the-
Matt Zook put out the budget schedule. And I had it with me 10 minutes ago when I was at home because it was in my binder, but I didn't bring my binder. So I have the schedule, but.
So we definitely should have it on our strategic meeting
Yeah, so
agenda
you
to
should be,
discuss.
you should be able to Dan should be able to send that to you. It was in our packet from last night.
Okay.
But at least you know when it's supposed to be starting to meet. We have to have the budget approved on or before June 30th, and we hope 2025. So we hope to have it done well in advance of that in case something happens. We also have the urban renewal budget that we have to do as well, but that's a smaller, more finite budget. The general fund budget and the police, all of that, that's the huge, big budget.
Well, I don't think you're going to have any trouble with this group of dedicated folks finding
I don't
people to
think so
come
either.
to the budget meetings.
I do coaching, so.
On the budget committee once.
Yes.
That was a fun experience.
Yes. It's not one of my favorite, when I was staff, we were doing budgeting every year, so we'd just get done with the budget in June, we'd have a little bit of breathing room, and then we'd have to start doing the budget again in September. So I'm really glad we do it the way we're doing it now, but it wasn't ever my favorite. It just nerve-wracking. But you did a great job.
Well, I appreciate everybody hanging in there. We're a little over time. Can we have 5 more minutes to just talk about some dates? I appreciate going over, try not to go over, but thank you. So once a year, the Arts Commission likes to meet in the beginning, sometime in the first quarter we're traditionally a very ambitious bunch, and we also have some subgroups that also, work in conjunction with each other, and we'll talk about how those communications work and what's required if you do additional work beyond. We do work beyond just this 90 minutes, I guess is what I'm trying to say. Would like to have a planning session. Usually it's, I say usually, we've done a couple I've been personally involved in the last 2 years, and where we've had like a 2.5-hour meeting to talk about our priorities and goals for the year, and to get a sense of, again, some of the additional work, who's available and who's got time, and how to support people in their interests. So, wanted to throw out.
I want to just add that it is technically an official meeting of ours, but it's more focused on strategy. So it's typically offbeat from our normal monthly meeting. Now, if we can't find a good date, then we could always do it at the next meeting. But normally, yeah, it is official. So just be FYI, there's no real difference in terms of.
Well, it is, because you can advertise it as a retreat.
Well, yeah.
Not a decision-making meeting where you have to notice and do all that kind of stuff.
Yeah.
But it's still a public meeting, right?
It's still a public meeting.
yeah.
Our retreat is a public meeting, but we're not going to be making any decisions at it or anything like that. We might come to consensus with that as much as we are going to be able to legally do.
Yeah.
But you aren't totally under the same yoke that we are. You have some of the same responsibilities, but like the serial meeting online and, that kind of stuff, so.
And was it really only 2.5 hours? I thought it was longer last year. Was it really that short?
Yeah.
Oh, wow.
We got there, I think some people were there early, and we had a little bit of food.
Yeah, we had food. Yeah, I felt like it was maybe more half a day
I mean,
for some reason. I don't know
Wasn't
why.
happening.
it was in for sure.
And we did it over at the
Willamette Falls.
Willamette Falls.
That was a good place.
venue, which is in the McLaughlin neighborhood over by the old high
It's
school.
nice. It's a nice spot. Will we do it there again?
I would like to propose that, because we do record it.
Great.
And it is a public
awesome.
meeting, and also we do record it, and they've got great
Yeah,
facilities there.
it's really cool.
So, and I don't, I was gonna throw out a few dates and see what people think.
Okay.
obviously, does Thursday nights continue to work for folks if we did it on a different Thursday?
Potentially.
Yeah.
So our February meeting is on the 20th. If we met the week before on the 13th, we could do like a 6 to 9 kind of thing.
Sure.
So that's one option. Or we could do it the following on the 27th, same thing Thursday.
Oh, the 27 is last Thursday on downtown.
Oh,
You
that's
can
last
see-
Thursday, we don't want to do last
I
Thursday,
can't.
okay. Or the 26th perhaps. Oh,
Did we want to, given all the work that we've kind of identified for ourselves, do we want to try and meet earlier than the 13th of February? Even the 6th?
Yeah. Sounds good.
I can't do the 6th.
Can do the 6th, okay.
Neighbors
What about
Association meeting.
the 5th?
The 5th? I can do most days.
Wednesday night?
Yeah.
That would be,
That would work better for me.
that, Wednesday would be better for you?
Yeah,
Yeah.
that works well for me too.
Okay.
Yeah.
Great, thank you. I'm gonna get in touch, we've got a couple of possible dates, hopefully the 5th will work. I'll get in touch with Willamette Falls and see what the availability is at their facility.
What time would we be starting?
What time would it be starting? It's like six to 9 kind of time frame?
Also, earlier.
And then, we would do a kind of potluck, so there'd be food and,
Yeah.
The 6th work for everyone?
The 5th.
Also,
6 o'clock, sorry. I said that wrong.
Is there anyone who,
6 o'clock on the 5th.
is there anybody who couldn't be there earlier?
I can be earlier, like 5:15.
if that works, that's true. I mean, I want to be respectful.
5:15.
And then we have to check with, double check with choir as well.
Yeah.
Okay, yeah, good point.
People like 5 o'clock is a start time.
I don't know about that.
No, I don't.
I don't think choir is gonna
Rapidly
be
approaching my bedtime.
I understand.
So, I mean, you said 5 wouldn't work, so.
No, I'm not saying it wouldn't work. I mean, I work in Portland, so.
Yeah, it'd be a bit
Okay.
difficult drive from there.
I feel like 6 o'clock is better because it does give you a little bit of break between the end of the workday and switching over, kind of gets you a chance to, or if you're commuting.
And we can like arrive there a bit earlier. If we've got, are we gonna do the potluck like
I
we
would
did
like
last
to
time?
propose doing that, yeah.
Then, you know,
Okay.
we can arrive a bit earlier and
Is that an open potluck? Is there a theme or?
I'll send out a sign-up sheet. Okay, all right.
Oh, that's funny.
I appreciate that. I know it's
Thanksgiving, is that what you're talking about, or?
I know it's another time on top of already busy schedules, but it's really valuable for us.
Yeah.
And I'll be scheduling orientation time for our new folks too.
Yay.
So we are over, typically we end our meeting with communications, but given that we're over, I think we will not do that this month. So, anything else for the good of the order before we adjourn? All right, thank you all for your time. I hope everyone has a great night.
thank you.